Welcome to In Focus on UATV. Iran threatens retaliation, but the truth is clear. Tehran is lashing out because Ukrainian long-range strikes just shattered their Caspian Sea supply lines to Moscow. Meanwhile, Putin's blackmails in the Black Sea prove only one thing. Russia has lost control of the maritime battlefield and is resorting to desperate pirate tactics. Ukraine hits back, hits hard, and holds the line. Stay tuned. For years, Moscow and Tehran relied on the Caspian Sea as a safe haven to smuggle weapons, drones, and ballistic missiles directly into Russia's war machine. But that sanctuary no longer exists. After precise Ukrainian strikes decimated armed supply vessels in the region, Iran is issuing threats of missile retaliation. But make no mistake, Tehran isn't a victim. It's a direct accomplice that just got caught in the crosshairs of Ukrainian precision.
The Iranian regime, allied with Putin, may be preparing a missile strike against Ukrainian territory. Ukrainian monitoring channels are reporting this threat. There is still no official confirmation of preparations for a specific attack. However, Tehran possesses ballistic missiles capable of reaching Ukraine. These include the Ghadar, Ahmad, and Sajil with a flight range of about 2,000 kilometers. If launched from northern Iran, they could potentially hit targets on Ukrainian territory. The greatest threat is posed by the Khorramshahr missile, whose range is estimated at around 4,000 kilometers. According to analysts, the munitions could be launched from northern Iran, fly over the Caspian Sea, enter Russian airspace near the Volgograd region, and then head towards Ukraine.
The Khorramshahr was first demonstrated in 2017 and is believed to be based on the North Korean Hwasong-10, which in turn is based on the Soviet R-27 submarine-launched ballistic missile. It is a liquid-fueled single-stage missile with several variants. In the 2,000-kilometer version, it carries a warhead weighing up to 1,500 kilograms, from a Defense Express publication.
Tehran cites an alleged Ukrainian attack on an Iranian commercial vessel in the Caspian Sea as the reason for its sharp rhetoric. According to the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, one sailor was killed and another injured in the shelling on July 25th. On the same day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported significant results from long-range strikes in the Caspian Sea. He said ships used to transport Iran-related military cargoes had been hit. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha believes that with its accusations, Tehran is merely trying to distract attention from Russian terror against civilian shipping in the Black Sea, which threatens global food security.
Iran's threats are unjustified and groundless. The regime in Tehran is a direct accomplice to Russian aggression against Ukraine, fueling Moscow's criminal war with weapons that have killed Ukrainians since 2022. Iran has no standing to pretend to be a victim, let alone justify its threats with absurd references to the UN Charter. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on social network X.
Ukraine is closely monitoring Iran's actions and must act cautiously to prevent the war from expanding, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated. In an interview with Sky News, he stressed that Tehran has already taken aggressive actions against Ukraine by supplying weapons to Russia. Therefore, Kyiv must be prepared for various scenarios, but still does not seek to open a new front, the Ukrainian head of state assured.
Iran, from the first year of the war, gave new technology to Russia. It was Shahid drones. They gave thousands of these drones first year of the war. Then they gave licenses. What did they do? Did they attack us? I think yes. So they already did it. We have to be cautious. We have to do everything not to open new front in any way, but we have to be honest. Iranians and North Koreans already attacked us.
As CNN writes, Iran's sharp reaction may be explained by the strategic importance of the Caspian Sea. For Tehran and Moscow, this route is vital for mutual supplies as well as trade with other countries. Ukrainian strikes on vessels in the Caspian Sea put this logistics under threat and significantly reduce the ability of Russia and Iran to use the region for cargo transport.
The Caspian can help Iran towards a diversified trade strategy, especially if Iran promotes trade with Russia, the Caucasus, Central Asia, China, via rail, and, indirectly, Eastern Europe. It is a strategic complement rather than a substitute for Iran's existing maritime access through the southern waters. From a CNN publication.
The Caspian Sea has repeatedly been used by Iran to supply weapons to the Russian Federation. Therefore, the Ukrainian Defense Forces have already attacked infrastructure linked to this logistics. In August 2025, the cargo ship Port Olya 4, carrying components for Shaheds and Iranian munitions, was destroyed. Back in 2024, the United States stated that Russia could have been receiving ballistic missiles from Iran via the Caspian and warned of deepening military cooperation between Moscow and Tehran, reported by Nikita Skoblikov, UATV News.
While Ukraine dismantles military logistics in the Caspian, Russia is targeting civilian grain ships in the Black Sea out of pure tactical failure, having lost over a third of its Black Sea fleet to Ukrainian naval drones and missiles. The Russian Navy has been forced to retreat. Incapable of fighting the Ukrainian military at sea, Moscow has defaulted to terrorizing commercial cargo. The UN Security Council condemned these attacks, but the real solution is being forged on the battlefield.
The United Nations has condemned the escalation of Russian attacks on Ukraine's agricultural infrastructure, accusing Moscow of deliberately targeting facilities vital to global food supplies. An emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on July 27th focused on Russian strikes against civilian vessels and continued attacks on Ukrainian cities. According to UN Assistant Secretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Kyoko Goto, the fighting is driving up agricultural prices and putting global food security at risk.
Wheat prices have climbed 20% from the beginning of the month and are at their highest since March 2024. Further disruption in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, as well as in other critical areas, could drive up freight, insurance, food and energy costs, with grave consequences for vulnerable and import-dependent developing countries. We urge maximum restraint against actions that endanger civilian maritime navigation.
On July 25th, as a merchant vessel carrying nearly 2,800 tons of corn departed the port of Odessa, Russia attacked it twice. The ship, sailing under the flag of Palau, had 9 crew members and a Ukrainian pilot on board. 8 people were rescued, while 2 remain missing, according to Ukraine's State Border Guard Service. Representatives of the European Union, Latvia, Denmark, France, Greece, the United Kingdom, the United States, Colombia, Panama, Bahrain, China, Somalia, Liberia, and Pakistan all called on Russia to halt its attacks and stop threatening global food security. By targeting Ukrainian ports and agricultural infrastructure, Moscow is deliberately increasing pressure on global markets.
Since the beginning of Russian full-scale military invasion, at least 1,054 port infrastructure facilities have been damaged or partially destroyed. 232 civilian vessels have been damaged, and 307 civilians have been killed or injured as a result of Russian deliberate campaign of terror which targets Ukraine port infrastructure and civilian shipping. In June and July alone, Russia attacked almost 50 cargo ships. These attacks killed more than 30 people.
Reports of Russian strikes on agricultural enterprises and bakeries across Ukraine continue to emerge. President Volodymyr Zelensky said, Ukraine is preparing additional measures to counter what Kyiv describes as Russia's campaign of food terrorism, while coordinating its response with international partners.
We saw a similar situation in 2022, when Russia's aggression threatened food security across the world, in the Middle East, North Africa, and many other regions. Today, Russia's attempts to block grain exports from the Black Sea could once again trigger a sharp rise in the cost of living in countries such as Egypt, Libya, and many others that depend on imported grain and processed food products.
Stable grain supplies are particularly important for countries in the global south, as well as China, India, and Turkey. Analysts say these nations could intensify diplomatic efforts to pressure Moscow. Another option, they argue, would be to organize naval escorts for merchant vessels with the participation of NATO Black Sea members.
Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey all have territorial waters in the Black Sea. They could escort commercial vessels along secure maritime routes. Russia relies on airstrikes because it no longer controls the Black Sea the way it hoped it would in 2022.
In July 2022, Ukraine, Turkey, the United Nations, and Russia signed the Black Sea Grain Initiative in Istanbul to establish a safe maritime corridor for food exports. However, Moscow began deliberately delaying ship inspections and obstructing the agreement before eventually withdrawing from the deal altogether. Later, thanks to Ukraine's defense forces, Russia's Black Sea fleet was effectively neutralized. Around one-third of its warships were destroyed or rendered inoperable, depriving Moscow of its former dominance in the Black Sea. Although Ukraine's maritime export corridor has resumed operations, Russian forces continue to attack civilian vessels and grain terminals. Reported by Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.
The reality on the ground and at sea is undeniable. Whether it's Russian warships in the Black Sea or Iranian supply lines in the Caspian, Ukraine is breaking the axis of aggressors step by step. Dictators only understand power, and Ukraine is delivering it. Thank you for watching In Focus on UATV. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned for real strength in action. See you tomorrow.